Welcome to Tartarus Deep, the galaxy's premier correctional facility for the most dangerous criminals this side of the Andromeda. I'm Officer Jack Donovan, and this is my third cycle working this hellhole. Jack's voice echoed through the vast, sterile corridor as he led the new batch of recruits, all human, through the prison station's orientation tour. The massive space station hung in orbit around a dead moon, far from any inhabited systems. Its titanium-reinforced walls gleamed under harsh lighting, designed to accommodate the visual spectrum of dozens of species. You might be wondering why the Galactic Corrections Department exclusively hires humans for guard positions. Let's look around. Jack gestured to the various alien staff members scurrying about with data pads. See any other Deathworlders? No. That's because we're the only crazy species willing to take this job. A nervous recruit raised her hand. But sir, I thought Deathworlder was considered a slur. Jack laughed. Only if you're ashamed of it. I'm not. Earth is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld: extreme gravity, aggressive fauna, unpredictable weather patterns, and environmental toxins that would kill most sentient species. The rest of the galaxy thinks we're insane just for evolving there. But that's exactly why we're perfect for this job. The station's intercom crackled to life with a high-pitched voice. Officer Donovan, please report to Docking Bay 7. The prisoner transport has arrived ahead of schedule. Jack sighed. And that, kids, is why you never get to finish your coffee around here. Follow me. You're about to see why humans run security in this place. As they marched toward the docking bay, Jack continued his lecture. The average human has 5 times the bone density of a Ziggurillian, can function on minimal sleep for days, can withstand significant blood loss, and most importantly, can improvise in crisis situations. That last bit terrifies most aliens. The new recruits exchanged nervous glances as they approached the massive airlock connecting to Docking Bay 7. Through the reinforced viewport, they could see a sleek black ship emblazoned with the Galactic Corrections emblem. Today's shipment includes some real nasty customers. Word is we're getting Commander Vex Thor himself. The space pirate? Gasped one of the recruits. The very same, responsible for the Belgori massacre and the hijacking of 17 luxury cruise liners. His species, the Vorlex, are telepathic predators from a mid-gravity world. Cunning bastards, but fragile, which is why. Jack tapped the stun baton at his hip. We're the ones keeping them in line. Get ready, folks. Time to show these inmates why humans are the most feared prison guards in the galaxy. The airlock hissed open with a blast of sterilizing agents. Jack stood at attention as the first prisoners filed through, each wearing neural dampening collars and gravity-adjusted restraints. The procession was a biological carnival of the galaxy's most dangerous 6-limbed Arcturians with venomous spines, methane-breathing Volgorians whose mere exhalation could dissolve human lung tissue, and a sullen group of Zindi assassins whose translucent skin revealed pulsing organs. Prisoners will proceed in single file to processing, announced a mechanized voice in 27 languages. Jack caught the eye of Officer Kira Reynolds, who was supervising from the opposite security station. She gave him a subtle nod, their private signal that something wasn't right. Jack imperceptibly adjusted his stance, hand hovering closer to his weapon. Incoming high-value target, Kira's voice crackled through his earpiece. And there he was. Commander Vex Thor didn't look particularly imposing by human standards, standing at just over 5 feet tall with a slender build. But his species' reputation preceded him. Vorlex evolved as apex predators on their homeworld, with limited telepathic abilities that allowed them to sense fear and intent. Vex Thor's skin was a deep indigo, stretched tight over an angular face. 4 pupilless eyes blinked independently as they scanned the docking bay. Those eyes locked onto Jack's, and the human felt a gentle pressure against his consciousness, like someone pressing a thumb against a window. Jack responded with what humans called the wall, a mental technique taught to all prison guards that involved focusing on a single, meaningless image. In Jack's case, it was static television noise. Vex Thor's expression soured immediately. "Welcome to Tartarus Deep," Jack said flatly. "I'll be your personal nightmare for the foreseeable future." "Human," Vex Thor replied, his voice like gravel in a blender. "Your species' minds are so cluttered, like listening to 1,000 voices screaming at once." Jack smiled without warmth. "That's just how we like it." From behind them came the nervous fluttering of warden flocks, a Trixian whose species resembled humanoid moths. His massive compound eyes reflected the harsh lights in kaleidoscopic patterns as his wings vibrated with anxiety. "Officer Donovan, please escort our distinguished guest to his accommodations in maximum security wing C." The warden's voice trilled with forced authority. Phlox was brilliant at administration, but notoriously conflict avoidant, a common trait among species from low-gravity, peaceful worlds. "With pleasure, Warden," Jack replied, gesturing for Vex Thor to move forward. As they walked through the detention center's main atrium, Jack noticed how Vex Thor's eyes darted to each security checkpoint, lingered on every camera, and measured every corridor junction. The pirate wasn't just being processed, he was processing the prison. "This impressive facility," Vex Thor commented casually. "I count 14 separate security systems, 3 redundant force fields, and neural dampening emitters in every hallway. Almost as if you're expecting someone to try something unfortunate." "We're always expecting that," Jack replied. "It's why humans run security, not administration." Kira fell into step beside them, her hand resting casually on her stun baton. "Commander's cell is prepped. Customized atmospheric controls, gravity calibrated to Vorlex homeworld standards, and a complimentary copy of Galactic law, what you did wrong." Vex Thor chuckled a sound like metal scraping concrete. "How accommodating. And who might you be, human female?" "Officer Reynolds, the last person you want to piss off before bedtime." Jack watched as Vex Thor's gaze swept over the other incoming prisoners, making subtle gestures that seemed insignificant to the untrained eye. But Jack had been doing this job long enough to recognize prison sign language when he saw it. "Making friends already?" Jack asked, purposely digging his fingers into the sensitive pressure point on the Vorlex's upper arm. Vex Thor hissed but said nothing. As they approached the cell, Jack noticed a group of Raxian inmates watching the procession with unusual interest. Raxians were hive-minded creatures, typically docile when separated from their queen. These ones seemed coordinated. "Kira," Jack murmured, "make a note to separate those Raxians during recreation periods." "Already on it," she responded softly. As the cell door slid open with a pneumatic hiss, Vex Thor turned to Jack with all 4 eyes narrowed. "You know, human, your species has a reputation throughout the galaxy. Violent, unpredictable, stubborn. But here's what fascinates me most. You're the only species in the Galactic Alliance that still practices imprisonment as punishment." Jack shoved him into the cell. "That's because we understand something the rest of the galaxy doesn't," he replied as the energy barrier hummed to life between them. "Some people only learn lessons the hard way." Vex Thor's smile revealed rows of needle-like teeth. "Oh, I couldn't agree more." 3 weeks into Vex Thor's incarceration, Jack knew something was brewing. 22 cycles on Tartarus Deep had given him a sixth sense for prison unrest. It started with small things, the mess hall growing quieter during meal times, inmates from typically hostile species suddenly sitting together, and the prison's maintenance droids requiring more frequent repairs. "They're planning something," Jack said, sliding his tray next to Kira's in the staff cafeteria. The food was universally edible protein cubes designed to meet the nutritional needs of any species. They tasted like cardboard soaked in artificial flavor. No kidding, Kira replied, pushing her cubes around without enthusiasm. 3 Cephides requested transfers to be Vex Thor's cell block janitors yesterday. Cephides hate cleaning. Jack lowered his voice. I reported it to Warden Phlox. You know what he said? Perhaps they're experiencing cultural enlightenment regarding sanitation practices. Kira nearly choked on her protein cube. That sounds exactly like him. Did you do the voice? I did the wing flutter too, nearly pulled a muscle. Their laughter was interrupted by Officer Telix, a Meridian whose translucent skin flushed blue with agitation. Honestly, you humans and your constant suspicion. The prisoners are well secured, the neural dampeners are functioning at optimal capacity, and Vex Thor has shown model behavior. Jack raised an eyebrow. Model behavior. He's corrected your patrol schedule twice this week. He was merely making conversation about efficiency. Telix's antennae quivered defensively. He was timing your routes, Kira interjected. And yesterday he asked me about the backup generator capacity with a little too much interest. Telix's skin shifted to an indignant purple. This is exactly why working with humans is so challenging. You see threats everywhere. On Meridia, we believe in rehabilitation through trust. And that's why Meridia outsources its prison systems to us Deathworlders, Jack replied, popping a protein cube into his mouth. Because trust works great until someone stabs you with a sharpened toothbrush. Later that day, Jack observed recreation period from the elevated guard platform. The massive chamber allowed for exercise under carefully controlled conditions, with species-specific areas to accommodate different gravitational and atmospheric needs. Vex Thor was engaged in what appeared to be a casual game of galactic chess with a Raxian drone. To the untrained eye, they were simply enjoying recreation time. But Jack noticed how Vex Thor's pieces moved in patterns that didn't make sense for the game and how the Raxian's antennae twitched in response. They're communicating, Jack muttered into his comm. Surveillance picked up nothing verbal. Came the response from monitoring. They wouldn't. Vorlex telepathy doesn't register on our scanners, and Raxians can communicate through pheromones. Jack made his way down to the recreation floor, casually strolling toward the pair. As he approached, Vex Thor looked up with a pleasant expression that didn't reach his 4 eyes. Officer Donovan, care to join our game? I'm teaching Drone 873 the finer points of strategic thinking. Fascinating choice of recreation, considering Raxians are naturally strategic due to their hive structure, Jack replied, examining the board. The pieces were arranged in what appeared to be a spatial pattern, remarkably similar to the prison's western quadrant layout. Sometimes the obvious contains hidden depths, Vex Thor replied smoothly. Like your species' inexplicable love of guarding the galaxy's worst criminals. Tell me, Officer Donovan, what drives humans to choose such dangerous work? We get bored easily, Jack said with a shrug. Plus the healthcare benefits are excellent. That evening, during shift change, Jack tried once more to alert Warden Phlox to his concerns. The Trixian administrator fluttered his wings in dismissal. Officer Donovan, your dedication to security is commendable, but your species' tendency toward paranoia is well documented. Commander Vex Thor has shown perfect compliance with regulations. Sir, with respect, perfect compliance is exactly what concerns me. Career criminals don't suddenly develop model behavior. Phlox's antennae twitched with irritation, unless they've been rehabilitated, which is the stated goal of this facility. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have 17 reports to file before the next cycle. Jack watched the administrator flutter away, then checked his chronometer. Night cycle would begin in 20 minutes. He tapped his comm. Reynolds, let's double the patrols tonight. Already on it, came Kira's response. And I've secretly disabled 3 maintenance access panels that Vex Thor was eyeing yesterday. Jack smiled grimly. This is why humans make the best guards. That, and we're the only ones paranoid enough to assume the worst. It's not paranoia if they're actually plotting something, Jack replied, watching as inmates began returning to their cells for night cycle. Vex Thor caught his eye from across the hall and offered a small, knowing smile that sent ice through Jack's veins. The breakout started, as these things often did, in the mess hall. Jack had just bitten into his protein cube when the lights flickered once, twice, then stabilized. To the non-human staff, it registered as a minor power fluctuation. To Jack and Kira, exchanging glances across the room, it was the opening move. 3 seconds later, the first food tray went airborne, launched by a Zentaron with 4 massive arms. It struck a Phobian guard directly in the face equivalent, splattering protein paste across 3 security cameras simultaneously. Containment Protocol Alpha, Jack shouted into his comm as he vaulted over the table. The non-human guards hesitated, following protocol by checking their tablets for the proper response procedure. By then, the mess hall had erupted into calculated chaos. This wasn't a spontaneous riot, it was orchestrated. The stronger species were targeting security equipment while the smaller, more agile inmates were creating diversions. And at the center of it all, Vex Thor calmly walked toward the kitchen area, flanked by his Raxian allies. Reynolds. Kitchen. Jack barked into his comm as he stunned a charging Arcturian. "We're on it," came Kira's terse reply. The prison's alarm finally blared too late as emergency containment fields sputtered into existence. But several failed to materialize, including the one that should have sealed off the kitchen. Jack fought his way through the melee, using combat techniques specifically developed for human guards facing stronger alien species. A Zentaron might have 4 arms and twice his strength, but humans had evolved on a high-gravity world where quick thinking and dirty fighting were survival skills. Jack ducked under a massive fist, delivered a precision strike to the Zentaron's respiratory organ, and kept moving. Ahead, he saw Kira engaged with 2 Raxian drones, her movements efficient and brutal. Earth's martial arts weren't just about strength, they were about using an opponent's mass against them, and exploiting biological weaknesses that most species didn't even realize they had. Status. Jack shouted as he reached her side. Kitchen access compromised, Kira panted, dropping the second Raxian with a swift blow to its central nerve cluster. Vex Thor and 7 others got through before I could respond. They're heading for the maintenance tunnels. A deafening explosion rocked the station and emergency lights bathed everything in red. The prison's automated voice calmly announced, "Attention. Section 7G containment breach detected. All personnel implement Protocol Omega-9." That's the weapons locker, Jack realized with horror. They're not just escaping, they're taking over the station. The mess hall doors sealed automatically as the prison's AI implemented lockdown procedures. Jack slammed his palm against the biometric reader, but it flashed red. Systems compromised, the panel displayed, manual override required. "They've hacked the central computer," Kira said, pulling a compact multi-tool from her boot, standard equipment for human guards that most alien administrators didn't know about. Typical non-human security protocols. They assume technology always works. "This is why we pack backup," Jack replied, producing a similar tool from his hidden ankle holster. Together they pried open the control panel and bypassed the electronic lock with practiced efficiency. As they slipped into the corridor, the station's artificial gravity fluctuated wildly, another diversionary tactic. For species from low-gravity worlds, the sudden increase was crippling. Jack watched as Telix and other non-human guards collapsed to the floor, pinned by what felt to them like crushing weight. Gravity's at 1.2 Earth standard, Jack noted, helping Telex to a nearby alcove. Uncomfortable for us, devastating for them. Perfect for Vex Thor's plan, Kira added. Split the response team by incapacitating the non-humans. They made their way through corridors strewn with disoriented staff. The prison's automated defenses had activated but were targeting seemingly random locations, clear evidence of system corruption. Control room, Kira asked, checking her sidearm. Jack shook his head. Too obvious. Vex Thor wouldn't risk a frontal assault. He'd go for environmental controls, they said in unison. Tartarus deep houses 57 species with different atmospheric requirements, Jack explained as they changed direction. Control the air, control the prison. And being a Vorlex, Vex Thor can survive in conditions that would kill most other species, Kira added grimly. They rounded a corner and found themselves face to face with 3 armed inmates. The leader, a burly draconian, leveled a stolen stun baton at them. The human guards, he growled. Vex Thor said you'd be coming. Jack sighed dramatically. Did he also mention that humans evolved as persistence predators? The draconian's confusion was brief and final. Before he could respond, Jack and Kira had neutralized all 3 inmates with brutal efficiency that would have horrified their more peaceful galactic colleagues. Left my stun setting on Deathworlder, Kira quipped, retrieving her weapon. Now, let's go find our wayward pirate commander before he turns this station into his personal battleship. The Environmental Control Center was a maze of pipes, conduits, and monitoring stations designed to maintain life support for dozens of biologically incompatible species. Under normal circumstances, it would be staffed by at least 6 technicians. Now it was eerily quiet save for the steady hum of machinery and the occasional alert chime. Jack signaled for Kira to circle around while he approached from the main entrance. The security door stood partially open, never a good sign. He drew his weapon and listened intently, another evolutionary advantage of humanity's predatory past. Inside, he could hear the soft click of talons on metal flooring and the distinctive subvocal vibrations of Vorlex speech. Vex Thor was giving orders. He adjust oxygen levels to 12% throughout the station, except for sections delta through gamma. Methane concentration to 0.07%. That will incapacitate most of the staff without killing potential recruits. And the humans, came another voice, one of the Raxian drones. Humans can adapt to surprisingly hostile environments, Vex Thor replied. Which is why we'll be dealing with them, personally. Jack took a deep breath and rolled into the doorway, weapon raised. In the same instant, Kira appeared at the emergency access hatch across the chamber. They had perfect crossfire positions on Vex Thor and his 3 Raxian accomplices. Funny thing about humans, Jack announced casually. We're excellent at anticipating the worst-case scenario. Vex Thor turned slowly, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. He appeared completely unsurprised. Officer Donovan, right on schedule. Step away from the controls, Kira ordered, her weapon trained on the nearest Raxian. I'm afraid I can't do that, Vex Thor replied. You see, the atmospheric adjustments have already begun. In approximately 3 minutes, most of your non-human colleagues will lose consciousness. In 5, permanent brain damage begins. Unless, of course, someone reverses the process, which would require both of you to lower your weapons. Jack maintained his aim. You're bluffing. Prison failsafes would prevent lethal atmospheric changes. They would, Vex Thor agreed, if they hadn't been reprogrammed during routine maintenance last cycle. You reported your suspicions, as I knew you would, but no one listened. They never do they? The paranoid humans, always seeing threats where civilized species see rehabilitation. Jack's expression remained neutral, but his mind raced. The pirate had planned this meticulously, accounting even for Jack's warnings being ignored. But there was something else, a calculation in Vex Thor's posture that suggested he was still waiting for something. "You could have escaped already," Jack observed. "Environmental controls give you access to the docking bay override. Why the delay?" Vex Thor's mouth curved into what passed for a smile among his species. Perceptive. Most humans rely on instinct rather than intellect. Yes, I could have left, but merely escaping would be insufficient. Tartarus Deep contains some of the galaxy's most dangerous criminals. Imagine what such a crew could accomplish under proper leadership. "You mean under you?" Kira interjected. "Precisely, Officer Reynolds. A new pirate armada with a battle station as our flagship." Jack took a measured step forward. "There's just one problem with your plan. It requires getting past us, and humans are notoriously difficult to kill." For the first time, Vex Thor's confidence wavered slightly. "An evolutionary quirk I've studied extensively. Your species developed on a planet where everything was trying to kill you. It made you uniquely resilient. It's why the Galactic Corrections Department employs you as guards, and why you specifically requested non-human guards during your transport." Jack added, the pieces finally clicking into place. "You knew humans would spot your intentions immediately." "A small detail mentioned in my psychological evaluation," Vex Thor admitted. "My species finds your mental patterns disturbing. You think in ways that are unpredictable, illogical. You imagine scenarios no sane species would consider." Jack allowed himself a small smile. "Like the scenario where I anticipated you'd hack the computer system. So I had Officer Reynolds install a completely separate manual override that isn't connected to the main network." Vex Thor's eyes widened slightly. "You're bluffing." "Humans are also excellent liars," Kira added, tapping a sequence into her wrist device. Immediately, the environmental control panel flashed red, and a mechanical voice announced, "Manual override initiated. Restoring standard atmospheric conditions." Vex Thor hissed in genuine surprise. "Impossible. We controlled every system." "Every digital system," Jack corrected. "But humans don't trust computers the way other species do. We always build in mechanical backups because, on Earth, anything that can fail eventually will." Rage contorted Vex Thor's features. "Kill them," he commanded the Raxians. What followed was brutally efficient. While Raxians were physically stronger and had natural armor, humans had been fighting against superior predators since they first picked up sticks on the African savanna. Jack and Kira moved with a synchronized violence that came from years of training specifically for scenarios like this. Within moments, all three Raxians lay unconscious, leaving only Vex Thor backing slowly toward a secondary exit. "You know what fascinates me most about humans?" the pirate commander asked, clearly stalling. "Your species still experiences fear, genuine, primal fear, yet you function despite it. You feel terror and continue advancing anyway. It's unnatural." Jack approached steadily. "We call it courage. And it's not unique to humans, it's just that we had more practice developing it." "Practice?" Vex Thor almost laughed. "You make facing death sound like a skill to be owned." "That's exactly what it is," Jack replied, now within striking distance. "And Deathworlders have had millions of years of practice." Vex Thor lunged suddenly, a hidden blade emerging from his sleeve. Jack didn't flinch, didn't even blink. Instead, he sidestepped with practiced ease and used the pirate's momentum against him, a technique developed by humans thousands of years ago. As Vex Thor crashed to the ground, neural dampeners already being applied by Kira, Jack leaned down and whispered, "That's the real reason they only hire humans as prison guards. We're not just used to violence, we've turned surviving it into an art form." 2 weeks after what was now officially called the Vex Thor incident, Tartarus Deep had returned to its version of normal. Damaged systems were repaired, injured staff treated, and the instigators placed in enhanced isolation. The Galactic Corrections Department had sent an investigative team, which was currently interviewing staff in Warden Phlox's office. Jack sat across from a stern-looking Trilaxian inspector whose 6 eyes blinked independently as she reviewed his report. "So you're telling me, Officer Donovan, that you installed an unauthorized manual override system without notifying prison administration?" "Yes, ma'am," Jack replied without hesitation. "And you did this because I'm human, and assuming the worst-case scenario is practically our species' pastime." The inspector's exoskeleton clicked with what might have been annoyance. "Your actions, while technically violations of protocol, saved this facility and potentially thousands of lives. The Galactic Corrections Department finds itself in the uncomfortable position of needing to both reprimand and commend you." Jack couldn't help but smile. That's pretty much the story of humanity's relationship with the rest of the galaxy, isn't it? Warden Phlox's wings fluttered nervously. "What Officer Donovan means to say is that we accept whatever disciplinary measures the department deems appropriate, while also humbly acknowledging—" "Oh, put a sock in it, Phlox," interrupted the deputy commissioner, a grizzled Andarian with metallic skin who'd been silently observing until now. "The humans were right, we were wrong, and now we need to admit it and move on." After the meeting concluded, Jack found Kira waiting outside with 2 cups of actual coffee, a luxury on a space station where most species found it toxic. "So," she asked, handing him a steaming cup. "Formal reprimand for bypassing protocols, commendation for saving the station, and get this, they're doubling the human security staff." Kira laughed. "Of course they are. Nothing says you were right like quietly implementing your suggestions after the fact." They walked together toward the observation deck, a rare indulgence during shift change. Through the massive transplas window, they could see the dead moon below and endless stars beyond. "You know what the deputy commissioner told me in private?" Jack said after a comfortable silence. "They've been analyzing security breaches across all Galactic Corrections facilities for the past 50 years. Not a single successful escape or takeover attempt at human-guarded facilities. Not one. And yet they still question our paranoid security measures," Kira said with a shake of her head. "It's because they don't understand how we think. To them, preparing for disaster means creating a protocol. To us, it means assuming the protocol will fail and having 17 backup plans." Their conversation was interrupted by a group of new recruits, all human being led on their orientation tour by Officer Telix, whose translator was struggling to convey concepts with no equivalent in his native language. "And here we have observation deck, where humans come to contemplate mortality and plan for unlikely catastrophes. My apologies, I am not sure I am translating the concept correctly." Jack and Kira exchanged knowing smiles. "Hey Telix," Jack called out. "Why don't you let me take over the orientation? I think I can explain the human perspective better." The Meridian's skin flushed with relief. "With pleasure, Officer Donovan." As Telix departed, Jack turned to the fresh-faced recruits. "Let me guess they recruited you with that fancy brochure about interspecies cooperation and rehabilitation philosophy, right?" The recruits nodded uncertainly. "Well, forget all that. Here's why they really hired you. Because in the entire history of the galaxy, no species has ever been as simultaneously terrified and prepared for things to go wrong as humans. We're the only species that watches disaster movies for fun. We're the only species that invents problems just to solve them. And we're definitely the only species that looks at a maximum security prison full of the galaxy's worst criminals and thinks, yeah, I could work there." A young recruit raised her hand. So we're here because we're paranoid? No, Jack corrected. You're here because paranoia kept our ancestors alive on a planet where everything wanted to eat them. And now, that same instinct keeps everyone in this facility alive, too. He gestured toward the prison complex sprawling below the observation deck. The Galactic Corrections Department will never officially admit this, but I'll tell you the real reason Deathworlder prison guards are always human. He paused for dramatic effect, making eye contact with each recruit. It's because we're the only species in the galaxy who plans for things to go catastrophically wrong and gets disappointed when they don't,